happy last week of school. I thought I would give you just a quick overview on this week's learning because we're using several resources and I just want to make sure it was clear. So if I'm in our classroom, I'm looking at week 11. This is the list of the steps that I will go through to complete this week's assignment. And so if I click in here, we are going to consider the impact of the food that we eat on the environment. Maybe something that you've considered in the past, may not be. Now, please understand that the items that we're looking at is kind of an oversimplification. Actual impact, carbon emission impact of the carbon footprint of the foods that we eat is a little bit more complex. But we're going to look at one aspect of that, and that is food miles, the distance that our food travels to get to us. So if you click on here, this is the instructions. This is where you found this video, and then there's also a generic YouTube video on how to use one of the tools that we'll be using for this assignment. So I'll start off by reading this article, What is a Food Mile? And this just talks about how far our foods travel to get to us, to get to our plate. So I'll read this article. And then next, so it looks like hitting the next button won't work. So I hit back. We're back in this folder. I'm going to click on where does our food come from. These are the instructions for the assignment, a little bit more in depth than what you saw in the file folder. So most people buy their food from a grocery store, but not understanding about where it is grown or made. So think about a favorite meal or a recent meal. Might be helpful to do something more recent since you'd still have the packaging from that meal. It could also be a snack, a number of snack items, but overall you're going to need 5 food items that you've eaten recently. You can include any 5. So then you're going to make a column. So let me show you what that looks like. We're going to go to Word, a document, and so I will insert a table. So I need 5 columns, and I need, I need 5 columns and 5 rows. Actually, I'm going to need 6 rows because one of my rows will be the header. So you can do this on Word, or you can alternately just draw something and take a picture of it and submit it on just scratch paper. But I'm going to make a column for all of my food items. Okay, and these are individual food items, not the entire meal. So instead of listing spaghetti and meatballs, I would separate out the food items into its different parts. So the spaghetti sauce, the meatball, the pasta, the garlic, the olive oil, so on and so forth. We are going to calculate or figure out where it came from. That would be the next column, the distance traveled. It would be the next column, the carbon dioxide emissions from that travel would be our next column, and then the packaging. What are we doing with the packaging? And so that is how we will handle that. I can make this a little bit wider. Okay. So I'll give you an example from our meal last night. We had nachos, and part of that we had avocados. So that would be a fresh food item. As part of those nachos, we had tortilla chips. Okay. Would have had some cheese, sour cream, and ground beef. Just as an example. Now your 5 examples might be different. It might be a combination of some snacks that you had yesterday, some crackers or an apple or some strawberries. So I know that our avocados came from California. And the reason that I know that is because if I take a look at the sticker label on my produce, and all produce will have a sticker like this unless it came in packaging. If it came in packaging, then it would have a label on the package itself. So each individual strawberry isn't going to have a sticker on it, but if you had apples, each individual apple would have it. So you either have to look at the packaging or the sticker. It'll tell you where it came from. Our avocados came from California. So I will come back to my Schoology information. And I am going to go into a couple of different possible tools. I'm going to calculate the miles that my avocado traveled from California to my grocery store in Troy, Michigan. So a neat little tool is this Nat Geo Map Maker. I can use Google Maps. I can use any number of things to figure out how far it traveled. But the Nat Geo Map Maker is a nifty little tool that I like to use. So let me kind of move this over here. So I have to go to my information. I'm going to draw a line. Let's say it came from Fresno, California. And I may have to research the company that I got it from in order to find out exactly what city in California it is. But let's just, for ease, I can click on Detroit, Michigan, or if I zoom in, I can actually click on Troy. So I'll hit the plus until I see Troy show up. And there it is. And so I will click on Troy, Michigan, and that will draw a line for me, and it'll actually calculate the distance. And then where it says click last point to finish line, I'm just going to re-click on Troy again to show the app that I'm done adding new lines. So if I wanted to kind of move a few different places, I could do that. But it tells me that my avocado traveled 1,977 miles. And so I will enter that into my document here. So it traveled 1,177 miles, is that what it said? 1,977 miles. Sorry. So that's how far it traveled. I'll make sure that I put in my units here. And then I'm going to figure out my carbon dioxide emissions. So that is another tool that you can use. If I come in here and I go to the food emissions calculator, it will pull this up. I'm not a robot. We're going to go under vegetables, and avocados unfortunately aren't under here, but a lot of them are. I'm going to move this sliding scale to say it was 1,900 and as close as I can get to 77, or you can type it in here, I believe. I'm going to hit calculate food emissions, and it's going to tell me that my transport emissions were 0.23 carbon emissions. Okay, so that is in kilograms. All right, and so I'll come back to my table. I'll say it's 0.23, and my packaging for my avocado was compostable. Whether or not you composted it, but it was compostable. Now, my tortilla chips, if you have a packaged item, you are going to have to take a look at the packaging. So this is not, this is just a picture of a bag, not our actual bag, but any packaging that you look at, it will tell you where it came from. So in this instance, even though the corn wasn't grown in Irving, Texas, so you can trace that even further back to find out where Mission Foods gets their blue corn from. But I know that it was packaged in Irving, Texas, and traveled to me in Troy, Michigan. So I can go back to my map maker, and I can figure out how far it traveled from Irving, Texas to Troy, Michigan again. Go back into my Word document or my hand-drawn table and enter that in. Now obviously this packaging wouldn't be compostable, it would be landfill, it might be recyclable, whether or not you recycle it. So you're going to go ahead and include all that, save it, submit it. If you wind up doing a map that calculates this, save that and submit it under the same item. That's going to be your food story. And then last, there's going to be a discussion. And so you'll need to answer the following discussion questions. And so hopefully that will be helpful to you, and that will be showing up shortly. Hopefully that's helpful to figure out how to do this week's assignment. If you have any questions, please let me know.